everybody, and welcome to Paragade After Hours, a podcast where we talk about nerdy shit, video game shit, and we're back after like an extended break. Between then and now, we went to a wedding in Tennessee. We moved. We're in a new space. We're in a new apartment. We're by ourselves now. We are going ahead. We have a little bit of a streaming setup now, and of course, I am joined by the lovely co-host Mael.
Hello.
So, Mael, what are we drinking today?
We're drinking some Japanese whiskey. I'm drinking Bushi as a highball, and I don't know what you've picked to drink.
I went ahead and just did a good old glass of Hibiki Harmony. My first glass was just neat. This one was on the rocks, so the ice is melted now.
Okay. So I was like, man, that's a really generous pour, but now I know it was on ice.
Yep.
So we've been busy.
Yeah.
And we now have our own place, and it's really great. And I think both of us are very tired from moving, but also very happy because this has been like a long time coming. We've been trying to live together on our own for like years now.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that it's like actually totally 100% happened.
Yeah.
So we're pretty happy.
It's just you and me now.
Yeah.
We have nobody else to blame but ourselves.
Right? Like, you know, if there's shit in the sink, it's our shit.
It's like it's either one of us. And in which case, if we both answer, it wasn't me, then we have a hobo living here.
Or a ghost. But that would be really hard to have a ghost here because this is like a brand new apartment.
Yeah. It could be on like an Indian burial ground.
Yes, the Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, like, you know. So So let's go ahead and talk about video games.
Yeah.
Specifically, let's talk about... Nice! Look at that spike there. I'm going to keep that in, by the way.
Sorry.
So, specifically, we're going to be talking about remakes and remasters. You know, you played your fair share of them.
Yes.
I've also played my fair share of them.
Uh-huh.
So, I guess, okay. Tell me what your definition of a remake and a remaster is.
So I think that they should be two different definitions. So, like, usually when something is a remaster, it is like, okay, we've just kind of gone back and upped the graphics.
Right.
Like, we've taken the raw textures before they were converted into, like, low polys or whatever, and we can now put them in HD kind of thing.
Right.
So here it is. All the graphics in HD or all the music has been like orchestrated like small quality increases.
Okay.
So like Resident Evil 4,
right?
When it first came out on the GameCube was a great game.
Yeah.
But it looked shitty. And so now you can play Resident Evil 4 in a not shitty look.
Sometimes. I mean, it's on your phone now too.
Yeah. Well, but like you have the possibility of playing that game in not shitty resolution
right.
anymore. So, whereas if something is like a remake, it's something more like what I would say Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on the 3DS.
Okay.
Those were kind of remakes, as in they were built kind of more or less from the ground up again, which is something that not just those two games have done, but many others. Notably, Final Fantasy VII will some point have its remake, because they are basically building that game back from the ground up into like a whole new game. Whereas, like I said, the remasters are just, we've taken the old game and we've kind of tightened the screws a little bit. Here you go.
Right. And my definitions definitely lined up with yours as well. And especially, like, you know, Zelda is a good example of, like, a remake as opposed to, like, a just straight up, like, hey, we just made the textures a little bit better, or we made it so that it can fit on a widescreen monitor now, as opposed to, like, a tiny, like, you know, CRT TV.
Yeah, I think that, whereas you get something like the remasters are more akin to just throwing on HD to the end, kind of like Wind Waker HD.
Yeah.
It's not a remake. It's not, we didn't do much else. We just kind of threw on some HD graphics.
So, I'm glad you brought up Zelda HD.
Yeah.
Because, alright, so, main reason why this has been on my mind is, like, one, you've been streaming Okami HD.
Yes.
And, like, it's still a beautiful game. Even if you just played the original PS2 version, it still looks fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then with the HD textures, it's like, oh, if it's on widescreen now, it's not all stretched out. But, the thing that irked me, about, like, the HD, sort of remaster is the fact that they didn't really touch up a lot of the gameplay quirks that haven't aged well.
Or any of the issues with the ports they didn't fix.
Right. So, like, my favorite moment during your stream was, like, doing a penis, and, like, that registered as a son, for whatever reason. And then when you went to do a penis, it did not register as a son, so it's very finicky, and they didn't really touch that up a lot.
Yeah, and I can tell you for certain that when it came to playing the original on the PS2 or on the Wii, those drawing things were just as finicky.
Exactly.
So, nothing at all was touched up or fixed. Nothing was patched, basically.
And that is something that, like, it's an interesting topic, right? Because when it came to, like, the Zelda HD remake, and I call it a remake because they did do some gameplay things to basically make it better.
Oh, you're right. Now, I've thrown in Wind Waker, which was a really bad example, because they really did, it was a bad example of, like, a remaster, because, they definitely did do a lot of fixes, now that I think about it.
Yeah, like, they went ahead and, they made the, finding the Triforce Pieces quest a lot easier, because they realized how fucking repetitive and dumb it was.
It was, but that was half the fun, Joe.
Was it? Was it, though?
No, it wasn't.
So that's just it. It's like they realized, like, wow, that shit sucked. Let's not do that again, but let's also keep part of the reason why we put it in there in the first place. Like, the whole idea of, like, finding the ghost ship, that's fun. Like, that's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's like other things, like, I can't even remember it because it was so forgettable, and it just became, like, this monotony of, like, I gotta go find all these Triforce pieces.
I have to find a map so that I can find the piece.
Yeah.
So that I can ride around the sea for hours looking for this piece of bullshit.
And, like, that was one of the main things that they, like, tightened up, and they actually made it so that it was better. Or, with the Tingle Tuner, there's no longer a Tingle Tuner, there's a Tingle Bottle now, where you do, like, the Miiverse fucking posts. But, like, that is, like, I feel like that's more just the technology, whereas, like, the whole idea of, like, hey, we're changing this major quest because we realized how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I feel like that should have been something that, like, say, Okami HD should have addressed with, like, its tutorial system, or just, like, tightening up a lot of, like, the monotony of, like, the first opening hours.
Yeah. I've only, in my one stream, I basically got through half of the tutorial, essentially.
Yeah.
Because the first world, I'll call it a world, is a tutorial for how to play the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And it's nothing has been fixed. Absolutely nothing. And I guess that's just kind of like, this is complicated because my feelings about Okami are complicated, but it really is kind of shitty that there's a lot of really terrible things in this really great game that I wish they had addressed in their HD remakes, or HD remasters, but they didn't.
And that also kind of, like, so it kind of brings me to this other point, and I feel like it's kind of a counter-argument to fixing those problems. And
Yes.
that is video game history. The idea that, like, hey, we need to keep these games the way that they were in order to still learn something from them. Like, the fact that we kept, like, the fact that they keep Okami the way that it is, and now it's way more easily accessible. Because the problem with, like, the original Okami before they released the HD versions, was that it was only available on PS2, it was only available on Wii, and if you didn't have either of those systems, it became really hard to play that, because like most people would then have like either a PS4 or PS3, and them re-releasing these like games on, you know, current consoles, the way that it was back in like 2002, 2003, like it provides like a little bit of like a sort of art history lesson, right? Mm-hmm. But there also comes this point where it's like it kind of goes into like that whole argument of like video games as movies, right?
Yes.
Because the closest analog I can think to this, as far as like whether or not you should change something, is Star Wars.
You know?
Like, you know, when George Lucas discovered the wonderful idea that is CGI, he wanted to insert it in everything, including his old works. And he had every right to do so, because he believed, like, oh, this makes it so much better.
Yes.
It didn't, but still, like, the fact that he did touch those up, and now it has become increasingly hard to find the original unaltered versions of Star Wars. Like, for most people, the version of, like, the original trilogy of Star Wars, they're going to see the touched up versions that George Lucas made in, like, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And do you think that's bad? Do you think we're losing something if we do touch up the games?
So, I don't think so. Mainly because, for the most part, a lot of what people have issue with when it comes to George Lucas revising the original trilogy with the CG remake, or like a CG remake in a sense, is that he's kind of changed some story aspects.
Oh yeah, Han shot first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily story aspects, but like, you know, things that are important to people, especially when it comes to Star Wars and the lore of Star Wars.
Yeah.
He did kind of change some of those things. But when it comes to things like Okami, if they had just fixed some of the jank of this game,
yeah,
it would have been even better. And fixing the jank did not affect the story by any means.
No.
Kind of like how the Dark Souls remaster, none of the jank was really fixed. And I think a lot of people were like, wow, couldn't you have fixed this? Because, like, I think the other thing is that when you are doing something like comparing movies to video games,
right,
you're forgetting the aspect of the thing that separates movies and video games is that interactive experience. And the interactive experience is first and foremost when it comes to gaming. Yeah. You can have a really great story of a game, like, say, Gone Home.
Yeah.
But it's boring as fuck because it's boring to play.
I like that game a lot, and I found it really interesting to look around the bookshelves. Excuse you.
Well, but I think for a lot of people...
a lot of people, yes, it is a board game.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that interactive part of the game is so important. And so when we're talking about these remasters that don't touch up the gameplay mechanics, I think it is important that, you know, these things do get fixed.
Right.
You know, or not important that they do get fixed, but important that gamers want to see them get fixed. Because we know better gaming now. You know, 5 years ago, we didn't have, you know, more streamlined controls, you know, and stuff like that. And I just think that, or that, you know, the graphics and, you know, graphics is one thing, but mechanics have definitely improved and coding is improved. And, you know, gamers have every right to want to see those things applied to old games. I don't think that we're losing anything by polishing a classic.
Right, and I have mixed feelings towards, you know, the Dark Souls remaster. I haven't gotten it yet because they have released it on Switch. but the moment they do, but I've seen like enough of the gameplay enough of other people playing this game to see like the main thing that they touched up was like the biggest gripe of all, which was Blighttown, and that in of itself is like a big old patch fix that should have happened to begin with, but even so, the main thing that just kind of like irks me about this, and I do kind of provide like a counter argument to what you're saying here, is that we have seen these gameplay improvements, right? Like we have seen this in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
And the thing is that like because we've seen this in Dark Souls 3, it's like it would make sense that like, hey, if we're making a Dark Souls remastered, why not just apply those game mechanics into there?
Yeah, why not just take the engine of Dark Souls 3 and...
I mean, you already have all the assets because you just reused most of them in Dark Souls 3 anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, the assets don't change very much from Dark Souls game to Dark Souls game.
Like, so...
I just think that, what I'm saying is that these expectations that a lot of players like us have...
Yeah.
is not an unexpected one, and is one that I think developers should acknowledge.
I think it is too.
It's a valid, we have valid, once kind of thing,
So the other question I do have is, because we're on the topic of like, remakes and remasters and making them more easily accessible, because I feel like that's the main point of like, remastering these old games. Because more often than not, it's just like a slight polish. It's going ahead and making them like widescreen. A couple titles that come to mind is like when they re-released Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on PC, or they re-released like Jet Grind Radio on PC, and PS3. All that really was just like, hey, we're just touching this up. And then the other thing that I think about in terms of that is the Virtual Console, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't change a goddamn thing.
Nope.
And that, like, I guess it's one of those things where it's like, because it's insinuated that it's not just a port, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a port of, like, this, like, of this game to this console. It's like, you are going in and changing something. Mm-hmm. So why not go the extra mile, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like, yeah, like, with remasters, I understand the purpose of it, and I understand, like, how it contributes to video game history, and how it contributes to, like, video game enthusiasts like myself.
Yeah.
Or, like, younger people. Like, that's the reason why something like the classic series from Nintendo is so, I guess, important in a weird way.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that no matter what, getting old games remade and rebuyable in a sense is very valuable to the gaming industry, because if it's kind of like how movies, you can always buy The Godfather, and you always will be able to buy The Godfather,
right?
And you should always be able to buy The Godfather, right? Because it's a good movie. It is a classic, and people should be able to enjoy a classic like that through through the decades,
right?
And that this is not something that is restricted to a certain generation of people,
right?
And it's important to make these things accessible to multiple generations, and so the same should be said of video games.
Yeah, because I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But the horrible realization of that, like, one, like, the NES cartridges and, like, the SNES cartridges, you eventually got to replace the batteries.
Oh, yeah.
They eventually die out.
And eventually on your consoles themselves.
Yep.
Like, my Nintendo 64 that's sitting right there.
Yeah.
Needs a whole new internal battery because... Yeah. That my Nintendo 64 likes to reset every once in a while because its internal battery is not functioning anymore. So yeah, like old hardware and old consoles eventually have to be fixed.
Yeah.
They have to be repaired. And there is a limited quantity of these things. Eventually, people just won't be able to get a hold of Super NESs. People won't be able to get a hold of the original PlayStation.
Yeah.
So we need to... It's kind of like VHSs.
Yeah.
Not everyone has a VHS player anymore.
Right.
Not everybody has access to VHS tapes in a VHS player.
Yeah.
So take these movies that were originally released on VHS and put them in DVD format, or put them on Netflix or something, a streaming service, so that people can access these old things.
And it really, God, it's so weird because we're finally getting into that, like, moment in video game history where this is becoming apparently more and more important.
Yeah.
And that, like, this is how we preserve this history. This is how we preserve, like, one, so that, like, hey, future game designers can look back at this history and see what mistakes were made, what things could they do better.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is also kind of the important reason why, like, remasters maybe should keep the gameplay quirks. Like, you know, with Dark Souls, it's like low quality of life things like, hey, Blighttown is actually bearable now. But things like you're in a tight corridor and your sword is going to bang off like the fucking wall every single time. It's like, you play that and you're like, this feels fucking awful. And you recognize, wow, this feels fucking awful because I can understand, like, during the gameplay process, in order to make something feel more immersive, in order to make something feel a little bit more realistic, they're like, why don't I have the sword bang against the wall? And in theory, that sounds like, wow, that would make me feel like, you know, man, maybe I gotta strategize this. Maybe I gotta do this as, like, a good thing. Like, this seems like a good idea.
But
in practice...
But when the game literally drops you into the very first area has a narrow corridor.
Exactly.
And, like, new gamers are trying to just fucking survive and get past the first fucking area and keep on dying in this one corridor because, like, they're getting, like, thrown at an enemy that just keeps on striking them. The enemy can hit them as much as they want. But the player, oh boy, if they start trying to attack with that sword, they just get cock blocks. Like,
exactly. And I feel like, you know, that's an important lesson, right? Like, I feel like if we don't have that, it's much like the same reason why it's like, hey, as charming as Muppet Yoda is, maybe we shouldn't do Muppet Yoda. Like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, technology exists for a reason, right?
But I love Muppet Yoda.
I also love Muppet Yoda, but I can also understand the young kids who are looking at that and be like, why the fuck does it look like a Muppet?
Because it's literally made by Frank Oz. I don't know what you want out of me.
But that's what I mean, is like, you know, I understand for us, it's more nostalgic.
Yeah.
But it's like, for younger viewers, they're looking at Muppet Yoda in The Last Jedi and like, what the fuck? And that's okay. That's okay. And it's the same thing that I would like for, like, younger gamers to, like, look at the original Dark Souls, look at the sword bouncing off the walls and be like, what the fuck?
You know, I guess so.
And
I just think that...
I think they should also fix it.
So you're like, do you want Dark Souls to come out with remake and Dark Souls remaster and then have people get really confused?
I would love that. I would love this confusing marketing tactic of being like, the remake, we put the Dark Souls 3 engine into it, and then the remaster where it's like, hey, do you just want to hate yourself?
Or hard mode.
You know,
it's literally just regular mode and hard mode.
They could just do Dark Souls remake and then just be like, hey, do you want to play the classic version with all the gameplay quirks? Or do you want to play the remastered version with the Dark Souls 3 engine?
Yeah.
So
that would be a lot of coding to go into one disc.
That would be a lot of coding. And again, I feel like that's also the reason why they didn't do it, because it's like, you know, they're working on Sekiro Shadows Die Twice right now. So it's like, all the fucking development team is working on that. It's like, they're like, fuck it, we're just gonna push this out and get us some more money.
You know?
And it got the money. I'm giving them my money. So,
you know?
But yeah, like, overall, feelings towards remakes and remasters, it's important towards video game history. And I feel like it's also, like, it's important to acknowledge, like, there is a reason why we change these games. There's a reason why we improve upon them. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's like comparing Dark Souls 1 to Dark Souls 3 is like, and that's important too, is to see how far have we come.
Yeah. In
just 7 years. And Dark Souls 3 plays immensely better than Dark Souls 1. And then also looking, but it is also important to recognize that, like, hey, you know, there's other reasons why people play these games.
Yeah.
And that also goes back to the age-old, like, question about Dark Souls. It's like, there are many reasons why people play Dark Souls, and sometimes it's not about the difficulty.
Fair.
So, with that, we're going to take a short break, and then we will come back and talk about our after-hours activities. So, be right back. And we're back.
Yeah.
So, Em.
Yes.
What have you been doing in your after-hours lately?
Oh, boy. Well, mainly unpacking and keeping the new apartment clean and stocked. You know, that kind of stuff. Mostly cooking. Sorry.
You're fine.
Mostly cooking. Now that I've got a very nice and wonderful kitchen.
Yeah.
I can do all the cooking my heart desires. I consider myself a chef. Or more of just a cooking show enthusiast who pretends that they're a chef.
That's fair. That's fair. So
I think Joe can attest to the fact that I spend a lot of time watching Cooking Channel.
Well, to be fair, Binging with Babish is probably one of my favorite shows right now.
I absolutely love Binging with Babish.
And it lives? It's alive?
It's alive.
It's alive.
Yes,
yeah.
It's alive with Brad Leone from Bon Appetit. If I had a little bit more money, I would definitely be subscribed to Bon Appetit magazine. But as it were, instead I just watch all of Bon Appetit and all of Eater on YouTube. Basically, I just watch a lot of YouTube. And then I've got, like, my parents' like cable login so that I can watch Food Network. Yeah, so that's basically what I've always done. But now that I have a real and full kitchen, I can actually do what my heart desires and put all of that binging to the test. So, other than that, I've been doing some streaming, where, as we had mentioned, I've been playing Okami HD, and I definitely plan on continuing that now that we have a new streaming setup, which is our living room, but it's a great streaming setup. But then also, you know, I plan on doing some work with my YouTube channel. I've been thinking on what to do with my YouTube channel for years, and I think now might be the time to actually start doing things with it.
Oh, yeah.
And then outside of the gaming world, I'm starting to get some work on art stuff. I've ordered some canvases so I can do painting again.
Cool.
Because I already told Joe about my plans for some art decor for our new apartment. And so as soon as I get those canvases, I'm going to get to work.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
So, kind of going back to the cooking.
Yes.
Because, you know me, I have to ask you, how do you feel about that? But no.
Fucking psychologist.
But, the main thing is, like, kind of, what do you take from that? Like, what's kind of, like, the joy you get from cooking?
I mean, honestly, I think that... So I'll be real with you. I'm really bad at following instructions. Actually, I don't need to be real with Joe. Joe already knows I'm really bad at following instructions. And so that makes me a terrible baker.
Yes.
But it makes me a really good cook.
Yes.
Because if you follow a lot of notorious cooks, I would say, like, you know, if you like, you know, Good Eats and Alton Brown, or you like Andrew Ray and Binging with Babish, you'll probably learn from them that part of what cooking is not following instructions. It's learning how the ingredients work and learning how the cooking recipes function so that you can not follow them. Once you learn that eggs are used for binding and, flour, it's got protein that, the gluten is what, holds this structure together, and you start learning the components, you can just stop following recipes because this sauce isn't coming together. I can add a little bit of starch or like cornstarch or potatoes or something like that,
right,
in order to thicken this sauce. Or this needs you can learn how to do how to cook by taste and feel and smell, and know through your gut, like, I just need to add another egg, or this isn't working, I need to add a little bit of water. And so I think what I really like about cooking is that I can go off the cuff.
Right.
A
little bit more improvisational.
Yes. And this kind of relates to how I feel about Chopped. I hate watching Chopped, and I hate how much I love it, and I hate how real it is, because it's like, wow, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I have to make dinner in 30 minutes, so how about I make a brioche, toast, etc. flatbread?
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't know what to do, let me wing it. And I'm just like, that's how I want to live my life. And so it gives me both control and a sense of freedom.
So, this is more, how would you say, off the cuff. What the fuck is a brioche bun? Because I've had them, I know what they look like, I kind of know the taste. What the fuck makes them different?
So, I actually don't like brioche, for one thing.
Okay.
So fun fact, I think a lot of brioche it's trying to be posh and adding a lot of extra flavor that doesn't need to be there. So a brioche bun or a brioche bread is a French style bread that is very, very heavy on the butter. So it's a very caloric dense. Yeah. So brioche is one of the more flavorful, buttery breads.
Okay, that would explain why I kind of like it.
Yeah. It's very flavorful. It's very full.
Okay. That also explains why I get the itis like immediately after eating any of those fucking burgers.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of chefs hate it when restaurants use brioche as the bun for a burger, because it's so
filling.
It's so filling, and it distracts from the quintessential flavors of a burger, which is umami. It really does take away from what the burger is already. Anthony Bourdain, God rest his soul, or, I think that he would be offended by that terminology, but may he rest in peace. Always had
I'll see you in hell, Anthony.
See you in hell. He always had this very much angry rant against people who tried to make burgers more fancy than they already were. He, in his cookbook, stated that the only correct bun for a burger is a potato bun, and I agree with him. It is merely a soft, pillowy serving apparatus for a burger. It is merely
that is true.
It is merely a container for the burger. And so when you give it a calorie-laden, buttery bun, it just really takes away from the meatiness of a burger.
It really does make me think of like that Parks and Rec fight between like Ron Swanson.
God, I love that. And what's his face? Oh,
fuck, I forget his name.
The asshole. Ben. No, well, not Ben.
No, he's not. Ben's not. Well, he was an asshole in the first.
Ben was an asshole in the first.
But he became better.
Yes.
But no, the other dude, he wasn't necessarily an asshole. He
was an asshole.
No, he was trying very hard.
He was a health asshole.
Yes.
But yes, the one in which he does this really, really fancy,
but burger. Even when he takes a bite out of Ron's burger, he's like, oh no, this is way better.
Yeah, Ron's burger is it's a beef patty on a potato bun.
With cheese. You can add ketchup if you want.
You can add ketchup if you want.
Oh my god.
So yes, I really do love cooking, and I think Joe likes my cooking, so...
Oh, I do.
You know what, that really, at the end of the day, all that matters is that regardless of what you make and how professional or unprofessional it is, it tastes good.
It tastes good. People like it. So
Joe.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Oh, goodness. So, I should have mentioned this in the opening, but I got a new position at work.
Hooray!
I'm not going to go too much into details. I'm just going to say that, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun, actually. And it's weird, because it's slightly more stressful, but in the kind of, I'm challenged way, where it's yes, I can, think a little bit more. Yes, I can go ahead and, do a little bit more, and it has a little bit more impact. So that's all I'm gonna leave it at. It's in the tech world. That's it. But the other thing I've been kind of doing is, so you've been hearing me ranting, screaming, raving about the news I've been finding out about Daemon X Machina.
Yes.
And it's one of the games I'm really, really looking forward to.
Yes.
And the more I read about it, the more I'm like, give me this game.
So basically, when this game does come out, that's all Joe's going to be streaming.
I'm probably not going to stream it. I think this might be the one game, because, I kind of have this rule for myself, for, games that I genuinely, enjoy in such a bliss-like state. It doesn't make for good streaming material, because I'm so zoned in.
What about your second playthrough? Then you'll stream it.
Maybe. But it's the same reason why I don't stream Bayonetta. Because I really, really like Bayonetta.
Fair.
And when I'm, playing that game, it's, one, I'm horribly aroused. But then the other part is that I am just, I'm very clocked into the game itself.
Yeah.
And it's I'm not a Fortnite streamer. I like talking. I like making quips.
Yeah.
But the thing I was looking into Daemon X Machina, and this was something that came up a lot, and even when I, tweeted at fucking Austin Walker, I was like, yo, what kind of, fast-paced, action, mech game should I play? Because I really want to get prepared for Daemon X Machina. And that's when I was pointed towards Armored Core 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew of Armored Core. It's I follow From Software. We talked about From Software a lot.
Yeah.
And, they made Medal of Chaos. They made the Armored Core series. And I was like, okay, I never played an Armored Core game before. Yeah. But they're Armored Core 4 is way different than any other Armored Core game. Because it's so fast, it's so action-oriented. It's you play that game, it's not, Gundam Versus is more fighting, arcadey-like. And granted, Armored Core 4 is kind of arcadey-like. But there's this weird FromSoft jank in it.
Yeah.
That makes it distinctly charming. And my first playthrough of it, I tried it on stream. And the problem is again, on stream, I tend to want to quip, I tend to want to perform. And that's kind of that was my problem with my first playthrough.
Yeah.
Is that I couldn't really get into the game. And the moment I played it just on my own time, holy shit did I get into it. It's so, it has all those neat little, mecha fan, quirks and stuff. The fact that you can paint every individual part, the fact that you can customize it, and you can also, you're moving so fast, you're boosting all over the place, and you're just, using all these guns and missiles, and it's it's so fucking cool and rad. And I have been playing this game, and it's, 10 years late.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of getting the idea of, why people are when the fuck's Armored Core 6? Because I'm yeah, when the fuck is Armored Core 6? Oh, wait, it's Daemon X Machina.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing is that a lot of people who know of From Software's other games have been like, so when are these getting sequels? When can we see more of this?
Yeah.
Since now you guys are really famous, you should put out more of your old stuff. And I think that's just really funny that we are getting more Metal Wolf Chaos.
We are!
And so it is wonderful. And I will say that when Metal Wolf Chaos does...
Oh, no, I'm definitely streaming that one.
Yes. We will be streaming that one because that one will be fucking hilarious.
So, that's the other thing is that I'm very glad that I played Armored Core.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, that was also kind of my fear about playing, Metal Wolf Chaos.
Yeah.
Was, it seems like a one-note joke. It seems like a one-note joke. You're playing as the President of the United States in a fucking mech.
But it's actually a good game, too.
Yeah, that's the thing! Is that, you're playing Armored Core, I'm like, holy shit, is this what Metal Wolf Chaos is gonna play like?
For the most part, yeah, it is. And that's the thing, is that Metal Wolf Chaos is a hilarious fucking game.
Oh my
If you
God.
don't know what Metal Wolf Chaos is, how could you not? Go look it up. I promise you it will be worth your time. It's a phenomenally hilarious game. The cutscenes are all, comedy gold.
Oh my God.
And it was all in English. Every single part of the game was in English. But it was never released statewide. It was only a Japanese game.
And we begged for it. The moment we found out about it, we're like, we want it!
Yeah, and so the original Xbox Metal Wolf Chaos copies were $300 to $600 on some years on eBay. But now we will be getting a remake of it from Devolver Digital, and it will be fantastic because it is a fantastic game with fantastic, hilarious one-liners.
And again, tying it back around to the original topic, where it's there is a reason why we should sometimes just leave games the way that they are, just make it fit on a widescreen TV.
Basically.
So, yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to in my off time. I'm going to save the other games I've been playing for next After Hours.
All right.
I've been playing a lot of other games.
Oh, yes. Joe has been playing a lot of games.
But Armored Core is definitely, it has really shoved its way into, my top games. Because I am so upset that I didn't play this game before. Because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And if Demon Ex Machina, which is being developed by one of the main producers of Armored Core, I believe he worked heavily on Armored Core 4, and also the same mech designer who did my favorite mech from Armored Core, the White Glint. Mm-hmm. And also fucking Char Aznable and Armor Array is in it. What the fuck?
Yeah, a lot of people who worked on Gundam things have their hands on this game.
Listen, this game just, it's man, this is alternate, this is future Joe going back in time and be like, I'm gonna be a game designer, and he just pitches Daemon Ex Machina, and he's like, here it is. Oh, God, so, man, that really is gonna be the game that takes up, a lot of my fucking time.
Oh, yeah. When does that game come out, Joe?
2019. It's a long time from now. And I'm going to be, eagerly, vibrating at the thought of it every time.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that just about does it for our first podcast episode in, 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our first podcast in the new place.
Hell yeah. So,
Yes.
Where can people find you on the internet?
So, I stream at twitch.tv/myallecology. I've got a YouTube, myallecology, and Twitter that I am really bad at using, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I think I made 2 tweets in the last month.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm really bad at Twitter. And so yeah, that's myallecology. Pretty much how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times.
What about you, Joe?
For me, you can find me at twitch.tv, Just Joe Stars. You can also find me on Twitter at Just Joe Let's Play. I think. Just Joe Plays. I don't know. Point is that I tweet.
You don't know?
I'm on Twitter a lot, and I look at my tweet logs a lot, and most of the time it's either I'm retweeting like some stupid bullshit about like politics, or I'm retweeting some stupid bullshit about shit posting, or I'm usually tweeting about like, wow, I really had the most fantastic poop right now. So there is that. And then, of course, you can find me here on Paragade, where we go ahead and, I'm probably going to dedicate this blog only to the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like this. I kind of like this format a lot better than just writing about gaming news. And if I ever feel like it, it's just like, hey, here's me writing.
Here's an opinion piece.
Here's how, like, Armored Core was the most underappreciated game of its fucking time. Why the fuck does it have a 60 fucking score Metacritic? I don't know. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening in. And as always tip your waiters 50%. Good night.
This is why you're poor, Joe.